Every empire begins with ambition. Rome began with destiny. In the 1st century AD, Rome ruled the known world, its legions marching across Europe, Africa, and Asia. Roads stretched for thousands of miles. Trade flourished, and its currency, the silver denarius, became the world's first global standard. But prosperity, as history teaches, is not eternal. Beneath the marble of Roman temples and the roar of the Forum, small cracks began to form, in their money, in their morality, and in their mindset. The empire had discovered the ancient secret of collapse. Wealth without discipline, comfort without caution. For centuries, gold flowed from conquered lands. But as expansion slowed, Rome's economy depended not on production, but on plunder. When the borders froze, the treasure stopped. The economy, once fueled by conquest, began to run on illusion. And in that illusion, every great civilization plants its fall.
Rome's wealth was built on silver, but silver is heavy. To pay armies and bureaucrats, emperors began to cheat. The denarius, once nearly pure, was slowly diluted with cheaper metals. By the time of Emperor Nero, it contained only 90% silver. A century later, less than 5%. Inflation followed like a shadow. Prices tripled, wages collapsed, and merchants began to hoard real metal. The government's answer? Price controls and propaganda. They outlawed private trade in gold, punished hoarders, and demanded loyalty over logic. But money is trust, and once that trust is broken, even empires turn to dust.
To sustain its army and vast bureaucracy, Rome borrowed, not from banks, but from the future. Taxes rose, borrowing increased. Public spending expanded on bread, games, and spectacles to keep the masses loyal. Every crisis demanded more spending, every promise more debt. And soon, the empire's wealth was not in its coffers, but in its obligations. Rome's debt was hidden beneath the illusion of eternal victory, the same illusion modern nations often wear today. Historians call it the fiscal illusion of empire, when citizens believe the government is rich because the government spends freely. But in truth, every coin thrown to the crowd was borrowed from tomorrow.
As Rome's finances weakened, its politicians turned to distraction. Free grain, gladiatorial games, and grand festivals replaced real reform. Citizens no longer asked for virtue, they asked for entertainment. "Give them bread and circuses," one satirist wrote, "and they will never rebel." The people surrendered civic duty for comfort, freedom for illusion. Meanwhile, the elite grew richer, tax burdens shifted downward, and corruption hollowed the Senate from within. Economic collapse was no longer a question of money, it was a question of morality.
When economies collapse, nations turn to armies. Rome's legions, once defenders of empire, became its creditors. Emperors paid soldiers with land, gold, and promises they couldn't keep. Every general with a loyal army could now claim the throne. Civil wars erupted, resources drained. To maintain loyalty, rulers printed more coins, inflated the currency, and drained provinces of food and silver. This was not conquest, it was cannibalism. Rome was feeding on itself. As the empire weakened, inequality exploded. The wealthy withdrew to their villas, guarded by private armies. The poor, overtaxed and unemployed, flooded the cities. Middle-class farmers vanished, replaced by massive estates run by slaves. Rome's economy no longer built citizens, it built dependence. This division tore the empire apart more effectively than any barbarian army. A civilization can survive enemies at its gates, but not the rot within its soul.
The fall of Rome was not an explosion, it was an erosion. And when the dust of empire settled, the world's financial heart beat elsewhere. Centuries later, another empire rose, not of swords, but of credit. The United States, after World War II, stood as Rome once did, unmatched, unchallenged, and immensely rich. Its currency, the US dollar, became the new denarius of the world. But unlike Rome's silver coins, this money was backed not by metal, but by faith. Faith in the government, faith in growth, faith that tomorrow would always be richer than today. And faith, like silver, can be diluted.
When the world abandoned gold, America replaced it with oil. In 1973, an unspoken alliance formed, the United States and Saudi Arabia. Oil would be sold in dollars. In return, America would protect the oil states. This was the petro-dollar system, the new foundation of global finance. Every nation that needed energy needed dollars. Every nation that wanted dollars needed America. It was genius. It was power, but it was also dependency. And every dependency becomes a chain.
In Rome, emperors debased their coins. In modern times, governments debase their promises. Inflation is not new. It is the oldest tax in history. It steals quietly, without violence, without law. Bread prices soared in Rome. House prices soar in America. And just as Roman citizens blamed merchants, modern citizens blame markets, never realizing the cause lies in the mint, not the market. Printing money may buy time, but it cannot buy trust. And when trust dies, the empire follows.
Rome fell under the weight of its debt. So too, modern nations carry the same burden. Trillions in obligations, promises that cannot be kept, and an economy addicted to borrowing. Debt is a drug. At first, it energizes, then enslaves. Governments borrow to fund wars, welfare, and illusionary growth. Citizens borrow to fund lifestyles they cannot afford. And like Rome's emperors, modern leaders tell us debt is harmless, infinite, as long as the empire grows. But empires don't grow forever. They age. And when the interest comes due, history collects. Empires rarely fall from invasion. They fall from indulgence. Rome fell when its citizens traded duty for decadence. America teeters when it confuses comfort for strength. Consumerism replaces craftsmanship. Speculation replaces savings. Entertainment replaces enlightenment. We are the spectators in the new Colosseum, scrolling, watching, consuming, while the currency of our civilization erodes beneath us. History does not repeat, it rhymes, and we are rhyming Rome's final verse.
Rome fell, and the world moved on. Yet the lesson endures. Every economy that forgets discipline remembers collapse. The formula is always the same. Printing replaces production. Debt replaces discipline. Spectacle replaces substance. And then the collapse. But from every ruin rises renewal. After Rome came the Renaissance. After crisis comes clarity. Perhaps the next generation will rediscover what the ancients forgot, that true wealth is not in gold or paper, but in integrity, wisdom, and restraint. As history turns once more, the question remains, will America, like Rome, learn before it falls or after?